What made the high school legend become a legend? Our vice principal, Mrs. Rodriguez, had this corrupt system where she'd suspend students for dress code violations and force them to buy overpriced school clothes from her personal collection to get back into class. She called it maintaining standards, but everyone knew it was straight-up extortion. The worst part was targeting kids whose families couldn't afford designer clothes. If you wore anything she deemed inappropriate, which could be perfectly normal jeans or sneakers, you'd get suspended until you bought her marked-up, approved clothing. This quiet sophomore, Maya, was heading to her AP chemistry class when Rodriguez cornered her by the lockers. Maya was wearing regular black jeans and a plain gray sweater, nothing remotely inappropriate. "Miss Chen, those jeans are too tight and that sweater is unprofessional," Rodriguez announced with her usual smirk. "You're suspended until you can dress appropriately for a learning environment." Maya just stood there, calm as anything, and said, "Okay, but you should probably know these clothes cost $300 total. The jeans are designer and the sweater is cashmere from Nordstrom." Rodriguez actually scoffed. "Nice try, honey. I know discount store clothes when I see them. You can buy proper attire from our school collection for $150, or your parents can meet with me about your inability to follow basic dress codes." Maya nodded thoughtfully. "All right, can I at least get written documentation of exactly which part of the dress code I'm violating? You know, something that references the specific rule I broke? We don't need to justify obvious violations to students," Rodriguez replied dismissively. "Interesting." Maya pulled out her phone and started recording. "Could you repeat which dress code rule I'm violating, for the record?" Rodriguez tried to grab the phone. "You can't record school disciplinary meetings." "Actually, according to state law, I can record any interaction involving my educational rights. This is now a formal complaint about discriminatory enforcement of dress codes." Maya kept recording as she calmly recited her rights. Her mom was a civil rights attorney who had coached her on exactly what to say. "I'm documenting that you've suspended me for wearing $300 worth of appropriate clothing, while offering to sell me replacement clothes from your personal collection. That's called a kickback scheme in the legal world." Rodriguez's face went from smug to terrified. "Turn off that phone right now." "Actually, I'm calling my mother. She's an attorney who specializes in educational discrimination cases." Maya dialed while Rodriguez watched helplessly. Within 30 minutes, Maya's mom arrived with a briefcase and a very serious expression. She immediately requested a meeting with the principal and demanded to see the official dress code policy. Turns out Rodriguez had been making up violations on the spot. The actual dress code was vague and hadn't been updated in years. More importantly, there was no provision allowing administrators to sell clothing to suspended students. Maya's mom asked to see the school's vendor records for the clothing collection. When Rodriguez couldn't produce any documentation, things got interesting fast. "So you're telling me you're personally selling clothes to students you've suspended for made-up violations?" Maya's mom asked, recording everything on her own phone. The investigation that followed was devastating. Rodriguez had been operating an illegal side business, suspending students with fabricated dress code violations and forcing them to buy overpriced clothes she'd marked up 400%. Parents started coming forward with stories of their kids being extorted for inappropriate clothing that was perfectly normal. Some families had spent hundreds buying Rodriguez's overpriced items just to get their children back in school. The school board discovered Rodriguez had made over $25,000 from her clothing scam over 3 years, all from targeting students whose families couldn't afford to fight back. Rodriguez was fired, arrested for fraud and extortion, and faced a class action lawsuit from dozens of families she'd scammed. Maya never got suspended because there was no actual dress code violation, all because one quiet kid knew the difference between legitimate school policy and criminal extortion. Maya became an absolute legend for taking down the most corrupt administrator in school history with one phone call to her mom.